Let's see some of the basic statistics related with the amount of availability of these. If we take a look, like India usually produces around 1800 million tons related with the animal dungs. Okay, and there is a possibility to do use around two-third of it. And this two-third of the dung, if you can use, it can produce around 120 million cubic meters biogas daily. It's a very huge amount, and that will be equivalent to 440 million tons of manure per year also. Means whatever the amount out of the 1800 million tons, if you can just use two-third of it, there is a possibility you can be have around biogas 120 million cubic meters and as well as 440 million tons of the manure. Now let's see if the 440 million tons of the manure, if you have it, how much nutrient you are getting it from this amount. So that will be equivalent to 2.5 million tons of nitrogen, 2.75 tons million tons of E2O5 phosphorus, and at the last 1.8 million tons of potash K2. So it's a very huge amount from the relative with the animal waste that you could have it. It's a good source. Now, why the two-third is considered to be utilization? Because some of the parts of the animal dungs is basically utilized in some other ways. Sometimes it has been used in the making of the cordon upla and others. Okay, it has been considered as a great source of fuel too for the cooking purpose and others so on. So that's one of the reasons that two-third is only possible to take in the agriculture practice. Moving on. Now you have to draw this table. Okay, to make it readable, let me tell you, you just write the 2025 one. Okay, just write the data which is relative with the 2025, this one, right side. And let's start with the this is the estimated, if you read the title, it is estimated trappable nutrients from the different sources in India. Trappable means there's a possibility to utilize them. That's what it means. It's a very old data, 1997, but it shows the chances of possibility. So we are just focusing on the concept rather than the like actual and facts of the data, which is not recent one. So let's see the resources, which is highlighted by the red color, if you can see, which can consider as the trappable. Now, in this one, human excreta is given. Human excreta, okay, the waste which is generated throughout the India. It has been considered, it is 17 million tons which could be utilized or trappable. And if you look at the livestock dung, it is around 128 million tons by 2025. Look at the year 2025. Now, how much crop residue can be utilized? Because most of the residues are also utilized as the using the formation of feeding materials and other industrial purpose. So everything could not be utilized. So crop residue will be around 162 million tons by 2025. This is an estimation which has been done. The source is given at the last part. You can see in 1997 the prediction is given. Now, how much nutrient is considered to be trappable? The last part which is highlighted one. अगर उससे पहले आप अगर देखेंगे तो जेनेटिक पोटेंशियल आपको दे रखा है. The genetic potential has been given of all these three too. Human excreta is given, livestock is given, crop residue is given. Okay, this is the amount of nutrient NPK altogether. But how much is trappable or can be in the utilized form? Just write down human excreta 2.1. All the values are in the million tons. Livestock dung, you could be have around 2.26 million tons total NPK, I mean. And crop residue, you could be have around 3.39 million tons. So if you take the total nutrient which could be trappable by 2025, it is given the value of 7.25. 7.25 million tons of NPK is possible to trap. Now look at the last line which is given, trappable. The meaning of trappable, you can say other things. Trappable means 30% of the dung, 80% of the excreta, and the 33% of crop residues. It has been considered on a general idea. Let's say that it could be utilized. That's what it means. अगर आप figures पे ना जाएं, percent पे लिखेंगे, so by the percent, it means 30% of the dung can be trappable, 80% total excreta can be utilized, and 33% of the crop residues. It could serve as a purpose for the nutrients. Moving on. Now, this table, you have to draw it. All the values are given. Or if the possibility is there, you can take a screenshot of the same. That will be easier. But I'm going to discuss this table. There are a few tables also, but I will discuss. Like how much amount of NPK from every ton of the grain is removed from the soil. पहले हमें ये देखना है कि हर क्रॉप से एक टन अगर कल्टीवेशन प्रोडक्शन हुआ है तो उस एक टन में कितना एनपीके का कंटेंट रिमूव होता सॉइल से. So let's see the total first. If we take a look at the total, in this one, rice is getting 53.1, wheat a little higher, 65.1. Now, out of this, Sadaf, you are there.
Yes,
Sadaf,
sir.
हाँ, ये
Yes, sir.
टेबल में ये बताओ, out of total one, which crop is considered as the most exhaustive here in the total NPK removal?
Pigeon P. Pigeon P.
Pigeon P. That is equivalent to
147.7.
exactly. So in the pulses, you can see Pigeon P is considered as the very exhaustive crop. And it is also true. This is one of the most exhaustive crops. So sometimes in the manure purpose, or when you're taking the legumes, you can take moong bean, you can take cowpea, you can take chickpea, but pigeon pea is usually never suggested to go for the legume purpose or like for fixing the nitrogen in the soil because itself is very exhaustive crop. So we're trying to be avoid this crop to be take under the intercropping purpose, and this crop is pretty having a longer duration too. So considerably you can go for the sole cropping of this crop. Okay, thank you, Sadaf. Let's moving on. Out of the total cereals, if we have it, which one is considered as the highest removal? कौन बताएगा? Anyone? प्रशांत है आज? प्रशांत? अवंतिका है?
Yes, sir.
अवंतिका बताओ जरा बेटा. Out of cereals, which one is highly removing NPK from the soil?
Sir, I'm not able to see the screen properly. It's
What?
blurred.
फिर से बोलो.
Sir, the image is not clear.
Image is not clear. Okay, any other person? आप स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो या फिर
Yes,
जैसे मैं
sir.
बोल रहा हूँ मेरी आवाज पर ध्यान देना, जो डेटा मैं बोल रहा हूँ उसको लिखते जाना फिर, ठीक है?
Sir, maize.
Yes. Sir.
Maize, are you sure? No.
No.
Oshin, help it out.
Sir, pearl millet.
Yes, in the values, if you can take a look, per millet is removing high amount of NPK from the soil, 93.5 per ton. Even the maize is not that exhaustive. Usually we say that maize is an exhaustive crop. Of course, it is true, but considerable the per millet, it's removing around 93.5. So whenever you're taking this crop per millet, usually the amount of nitrogen required in the second succeeding crop, it should be higher, and we have to be very careful in the application of nitrogen. Means we have to make sure nitrogen पड़ना है next crop में. Okay, moving on.
सर ये जो पल्सेस हैं इनमें लेग्यूम इफेक्ट होता है तो सर
Hmm.
सर तो ये मतलब पल्सेस तो सर फिक्स भी करती है नाइट्रोजन तो
पल्सेस फिक्स
उसमें
भी करती
ज्यादा
है
क्यों है?
आपको. आपने इसमें टोटल बैलेंस नहीं दिखाया है, ये सिर्फ रिमूवल है, बैलेंस नहीं है. अगर आप इसमें ये देखेंगे ना, इसमें जैसे एन एन कंटेंट देखिए, ठीक है ना. एन कंटेंट अगर आप सिर्फ देख रहे हैं,
यस
चिक
सर।
पी है, पिजन पी है. ओके, these two are given 50.6, 92.1, right? This is
यस सर।
pretty higher है, क्योंकि प्रोटीन कंटेंट ज्यादा होता है तो नाइट्रोजन कंजप्शन भी ज्यादा होता है.
यस सर।
ओके, सो दिस इज नॉट दी बैलेंस वैल्यू. ये बैलेंस वैल्यू नहीं है, ये सिर्फ एग्जॉस्ट जो कर रहा है उतना है, कितना दे रहा है वो वैल्यू नहीं दी गई है, वो आपको नेक्स्ट वाले में मिल जाएगा.
ओके सर।
ओके, चलिए मूविंग ऑन. Okay, these are the micronutrients removal. It's the same per ton. Now, out of all the values, if we can take a look, let's see the iron content. The highest iron removal comes from the rice. Similarly, manganese as well as zinc content is highly removed by the rice cultivation. It's very true. The micronutrient requirement is quite higher in the rice, and their values are too much better as compared to the other cereals. If you can take a look. Okay. Now after rice, if you can take a look, the second crop which removes more amount of iron is sorghum, 360 gram with every ton. Okay, and see the amount of zinc also. The sorghum also remove a little more, second largest in the consumption of the, or better to say the removal of the zinc from the soil. Okay, but boron, let's look at the values of the boron. Potato removes the highest amount, 50 gram per ton. And the least one अगर आप अगर देखना चाहते हैं तो किसी में भी देख लीजिए. If you can just take a look, usually the cotton is actually a fiber crop, so the most of the micronutrient content is also very low in all the aspect: iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum. All the values usually they are considerably lower as compared to the cereals that we have it. Moving on, you have to write down the CN ratio. Okay, before moving to the, if you're looking for some organic manure preparations, this is always a considerable question, like what should be the good CN ratio that we choose, or which kind of a material that should be applicable. This is actually total amount
एक्सक्यूज
of.
मी सर।
हाँ जी बताइए.
सर कुछ बच्चे ना डिस्कनेक्ट हो गए हैं और आपने मीटिंग लॉक कर दी है तो वो कनेक्ट
ओके
नहीं हो
ओके
पा
ओके
रहे हैं।
ओके ओके ओके, यस हो गया. ऐसा होना तो चाहिए था. अब ज्वाइन हुए? We'll continue. Should I?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, चलिए. Let's see. Some of the CN ratio is very useful to understand when you're looking for the inputs to utilize under the manure preparation or compost preparation. Now look at the out of the usually. If you can take a look on the corn stalks, usually the stalks or a straw, they have the values 60 to 70. Corn की है, straw usually 40 to 150. Then the silage that is corn based 40 is a good source. The fall leaves, the leaves which has been twigs, they have been fall off. They are 30 to 80. Now, two are I highlighted here. Sometimes from the kitchen waste or maybe the urban areas, you can get these two. Newspaper is there and the sawdust is there. Now, usually it has been coming directly from the household. So household dust, if you can take a look, sawdust is quite having the 200 to 700 CN ratio. It's pretty high. There is no possibility to utilize this as a very good source. There is always a second consumption or decomposition that you have to go through. Similarly, the newspaper, sometimes people say that, okay, it is very quite biodegradable and so on. But the material which is used in the newspaper, they give the CN ratios as very high, 400 to 800. So you cannot suggest, you cannot advise somebody to use sawdust and newspaper especially. That you can use them because in the societies or the urban societies, these are the very common raw materials that can be available. Similarly, look at the cardboard, which is given next to the newspaper, cardboard. It is also having the highest CN ratio of 500. So possibly you have to go for the very long way to degrade them. अगर आप इनको use करेंगे, so there is a possibility the जो आपका decomposition rate होगा will be slower and your compost will be ready more than 6 months and above. Okay. Now look at the high nitrogen content one. If you go for the high nitrogen one, here you can see some of the vegetable waste. Okay, potatoes, grass clippings, and although all the total list which is given here, they have a high nitrogen content, but I'm just highlighting which is very commonly available, like potato skulls. It is only having nitrogen content about like 18 as a ratio basis. Vegetable waste is also good one, 10 to 20. Coffee grounds can be used. Grass clipping can also be used. Sometimes in the lawn we cut the grass. So this chipped out or cut grass can be utilized for the compost preparation easily because they have a good source of nitrogen at the same time. Moving on, you can stop me anywhere when you're writing something. So if you're missing it, just let me know. Moving on. Uh, this will give you focus on the first three: rice, sorghum, maize. That's it. इसके नीचे वाली सारी क्रॉप्स को छोड़ देना. Okay, just look at these three: rice, sorghum, maize. Now, if you look the total grain plus straw content, let's say that this is an example, research based. If you are getting 15 tons of rice or the paddy, you can say the nutrient content by percentage, just write down. NPK content will be of 0.4 to 0.066 and 0.66. Similarly, if you are getting around 5 tons of sorghum, out of this, you will be have NPK content in percent 0.21 and 0.086 P2O5 and 0.33% K2O. Let me tell you, I'm not sure about the exams, but if there will be exam conducted, the questions will be asked based on these tables. Okay, so this is not just I'm giving you some random data. We can utilize them for asking the questions based on this. So do not skip it. Pay attention. Now look at the maize. If you're getting around 14 tons, approximately 15 tons, 14,950. So 15 tons of the maize, if we have under production, the values of NPK content, of course, it will be lower. The nitrogen will be 0.21, but potash is quite higher, 0.83. But the values of phosphorus, P2O5, it will be of 0.06. So out of these three good sources of crop residue, because compost, manure preparations, these are usually required residues which are generated from the farm, rice, sorghum, maize. The better you can suggest is rice, then followed by the sorghum or maybe maize too. लेकिन अगर फॉस्फोरस अगर आपको ज़्यादा चाहिए सॉइल में, सो ऑन द बेसिस सॉरी पोटाश पोटाश अगर आपको किसी सॉइल में ज़्यादा चाहिए तो यू कैन गो फॉर द मेज. मेज इज अ गुड ऑप्शन आउट ऑफ दिस थ्री.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर,
हाँ,
सर इसके क्रॉप रेसिड्यूज हम यूज कहाँ करेंगे? जो
क्रॉप
राइस
रेसिड्यूज.
sorghum मेज
हाँ,
यूज कहाँ करेंगे मतलब?
crop residues, these are the crop residues which could be required for the preparation of compost and so on, for the preparation
ओके
purpose.
ठीक है सर,
ठीक है, इसलिए मैं
ठीक है
बता
सर,
रहा हूँ.
ठीक.
चलिए मूविंग ऑन. एक मिनट. हाँ ठीक है. These are the some of the legumes. I prepared this table. I come out with this table to let you know which could be considered having a higher nitrogen fixation capacity. On the basis of capacity, it has been divided into categories: high, moderate, and low. High means look at the table below. There is a red box. आप पहले वो लिख लीजिए जो रेंज है, बिकॉज दिस इज द अब्रॉड स्टडी. ये इंडिया की नहीं है, बाहर की है, तो सोर्स बाहर का है. हाई मीन्स when you're getting more than 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Moderate nitrogen fixation मतलब 50 to 150 pounds nitrogen per acre. On any value which is less than 50 pounds per acre, it is low. Now look at the alfalfa, veg, okay, they are having a very good source to fix the nitrogen in the higher amount.
सर वेज क्या होता है?
वेज बेटा एक तरह से बेल होती है अलग टाइप की, ठीक है. और वेल आई आल्सो हैव नॉट सीन इट हियर, सो मेरे को थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट होगा बताने के लिए, बट कंसीडर इज सम वन काइंड ऑफ अ लेग्यूम व्हिच इज देयर. ओके, और एक बेल टाइप की होती है. और मूविंग टू द कॉमन बीन्स, द बीन्स यूजली वी हैव दे हैव अ लो कंटेंट. जैसे आप अगर आप फ्रेंच बीन लगाते हैं या अदर बीन्स अगर आप लगाते हैं, सो ये दे यूजली आर. एनोटेशन कौन यूज कर रहा है भाई? हेरी वेज को बेल दिखा रहे हो. Don't use the annotations. Moving on. Maybe you can correct me, okay? Hairy veg or maybe other thing. But let's focus on the bean also. Bean is considered as the very low amount to fix the nitrogen in the soil. It is very common to. And garden peas, they you can use them. Garden peas are much better in fixing the nitrogen. So in the Rabi season, you can use the garden peas to have a good amount of nitrogen to be fixed under the soil. moving on. It's a little slower. Is it already 40 minutes? No.
Sir, 8 minutes are left.
मेरा लैपटॉप हैंग हो रहा है ना बेटा, आगे स्लाइड नहीं बताइए, इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ। Just a second. Okay, stay with me. Let me check. Meanwhile, just prepare this table. Okay. Back. Okay, coming to the next one. This is about the vermicompost and other compost. And here the amount of N, P, and K it is given here. So based on the N only, you can just write. Okay, just based on the nitrogen, just write down the amount of N% in all these, which is given here. I'm reading it, those who cannot see, like vermicompost 1.6, rural compost 1.2, urban compost 1.2, paddy straw compost 0.9, paddy straw compost. Then next is maize stalk. Maize stalk is 1.1. Maize stalk compost. The complete is maize stalk compost. Next is cotton waste compost 1.6. Then next water hyacinth 2, poultry manure 2.9, castor based, it's a good source of nitrogen, 5.8, cotton seed 3.9, neem having considerable amount of nitrogen, neem 5.2, then Niger 4.8, rapeseed 5.1, linseed is a good source 5.5, and sunflower 4.8. Okay, now moving on, the next slide. थोड़ा कनेक्टिविटी इशू मेरी तरफ ज़्यादा आ रहा है, पता नहीं क्यों। बार बार ये हैंग हो रहा है। Just a second. Just keep writing the table which is given to you. these are the amount of the secondary and micronutrient content of vermicompost and FIM. But leave it, we don't need this one. Vermicompost, micronutrients. But let me tell you why I'm sharing this one. Vermicompost and FIM, they are the very good source of providing the micronutrients at the same time. As compared to the other compost, if you are having vermicompost and FIM, rather than straight fertilizers, जिसमें आपको यूरिया अलग चाहिए होता है, DAP अलग चाहिए होता है, and so on चाहिए, they only provide you the single amount, a single nutrient. Or maybe the complex you can get only one or two of it. But when you go with the organic manures like vermicompost and FIM, they not only provide you all the macronutrients but also the micronutrients. And sometimes they also include some other asparagine and lysine also is there, which is required, and they are a very good source of amino acids. Now this is the last slide of today's, then I will stop. Now if you are looking for a very good compost to prepare, there are certain parameters like what should be a good compost characteristics. So just write down pH, it should be around 5.5 to 8. The content of moisture in the growing compost, it should be 35 to 55%. The particle size, it should be lesser than a half inch or maybe smaller than that, depending on it. Jitna बारीक होगा much होगा the powdery form. Stability of the compost. Stability means it should be very reliable. It should be available in the same form, the physical form, for a longer period. So it should be highly stable. It should provide the nutrients, and there should not be a very large shrinkage problems. जिससे समय के साथ साथ होता है कि reduce होता जा रहा है जो उसका size है. It should not be there. It should be highly stable on that basis of physical reliability. Now, what will be the maturity or growth screening? If you can take a look, कैसे पता चलेगा कि good compost नहीं है? So you can have a certain test. They should demonstrate ability to show you the seed germination as well as the plant growth. अगर उसके अंदर आप कोई भी particular crop का cultivation लेते हैं, then you can see amount of germination percentage is good, better plant, rigid plants are found. It could be considered as the good compost. And certain amount of salt is also there, so there is a limitation. Those salts content, it should not be more than 3 millimoles per centimeter. This is a maximum, 3 millimoles per centimeter.